Before we begin, we have a favor to ask. If you like this podcast, please help us spread the word about the show. Go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the show. Another way is to tell a fellow art teacher. Either way, it helps others find the show. The Blocks, Paper, Scissors podcast has a lot of information regarding teaching art, not just for tab teachers, but for anyone who is looking to further their understanding of children in a choice-based classroom. This show is about finding new ways to engage children and help them find their voice through visual arts.
Back in 1983, I was the head cook at Kilroy's of Bloomington. We had different people would come in, and Eddie Money was doing a concert at IU Auditorium, and after the concert he came in to Kilroy's.
Did he give you any tickets to Paradise?
No 2 tickets to Paradise, and I made him a Reuben sandwich. That's what he ordered, and the waitress said that he gave her a good tip, so I guess the sandwich was okay.
Well, everybody, this is the Blocks, Paper, Scissors podcast. My name is Clark Freilich.
And I'm Clyde Goff.
And thank you for spending your day or your hour or whatever it is that you're doing to listen to us blabber and talk about our favorite topic, teaching for artistic behavior and teaching art. We appreciate everyone who listens. I need to apologize to our listeners because the last podcast we did about a month ago, and
what happened to it?
Well, good question. I was having computer issues, and at the time I had edited it, and I went back to open it up to finish editing it, and it was gone. It was just gone. Poof. It was like...
just gone.
It was. I probably was really tired and deleted it or something, but who knows.
You think it was a corrupted file?
I have no idea what it was. It was a ghost. Maybe it was the podcast gods came down and said, "This is not good enough."
Was there something controversial on that?
No, there wasn't anything controversial. So we'll talk about what we talked about then today. But we have a lot of other things to talk about too, because we've been busy.
Yeah.
In the last few months.
Yeah, busy time of year for our teachers. Near the end of Thanksgiving break, October, we just had an art exhibit at New Palestine High School.
Nicely done. Congrats.
And, yeah, it was an undertaking, and then of course my body's not doing too good. I incurred a case of sciatica, as you know, from my whining and lamenting.
Just getting old.
I know. And the thing about it is a teacher who gets, if you get a physical ailment or you get ill, teachers don't like to take time off. They want to be in the room. They want to be in the classroom. They want to be, especially our teachers who are doing a tab or choice-based art education, you want to be there to maintain the program and make sure things are running smoothly. So to put on an art show, you do what you can, you get some treatment, but, the past couple of weeks I've been teaching, with severe back pain. And if you take time off, nothing, things can go sideways. We don't want that. So we just go, the kids are like, "Mr. Gaw, what's wrong with you? Why are you squatting on the ground? Why are you stretching your legs?"
That has a completely different meaning. Johnny, why are you squatting?
Mr. Gaw, why are you in the pigeon pose on the floor of the art room? What's wrong with you?
Painkiller's not working?
No. Sciatica is a pain literally a pain in the
butt.
Yes. But yeah, that's the life of a teacher. Teachers, art teachers especially, bending down, moving around. You got to be in good shape.
Washing brushes,
moving boxes,
clay.
Materials, clay. Yeah.
Today, I thought we would talk about a phenomenon that happens very regularly in the TAB classroom, and that is organic collaboration.
Self-organizing groups.
Kids working together. We see it a lot in the TAB classroom or in the studio. We encourage it. And the studios are supposed to be designed to emphasize or to promote. To promote movement and instantaneous collaboration.
Yeah, creative impulse can involve not just an individual, but if you have two people, you have a group.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of dynamic interplay that goes on when you have self-organizing groups, collaborative, creative activity, and it happens a lot in a TAB classroom.
Right. So when we say that, we will see kids asking if they can work with another friend or if they can do it themselves. And, in a TAB classroom, we fully encourage kids to be creative in any way they can. And sometimes that involves other people or other actors.
One of the wonderful things about self-organizing groups is it offers individuals who might have disability to be involved in a real dynamic learning event. And so the TAB classroom offers a major element of inclusive learning experience. And so everybody can, or anybody can have a opportunity for a dynamic collaborative experience. When we see these kinds of activities begin to unfold, my intuition for when I see it happening is, as you said, promoting it and encouraging it, and even helping to catalyze it sometimes. Mm-hmm. And so the act of creativity itself, there's the negotiation of who's going to do what. There's language development going on, socializing, and then there's the experience itself.
Right. And I've seen it manifest itself in many different ways in my classroom. I'm a K-4 teacher. Kindergartners, they'll be all working at the same table, drawing the same thing. So there was someone who had an idea, and everyone else was sort of copying that idea. So they're all working together, and yet collaboratively, because they're all working on this same idea. And when talking with them, I'll ask them, who came up with the idea. There really isn't one person who said, this is my idea and we're all doing it. It just organically happened that one person was drawing something, the other person liked it. That's the good stuff when kids are working like that and they're not complaining that so-and-so's copying off their work. Because as Ian Sand says, art is steal. So, so that's one type of working together that we see a lot of, but it's not a planned activity. Like as kids get older, they'll start working in predefined groups. I have some second graders who are making Chopsy books right now. So Chopsy is a Chopsy is a character that this second grader developed. And he's making books, and he's got his friends making Chopsy books too, or coloring in the Chopsy books, or stapling the Chopsy books, or making Chopsy books as well. But it's a group of 4 or 5 kids that have been working on this all year.
So they have a narrative going on involving the character of Chopsy, and the narrative is it's a story.
It is story.
And there's all kinds of creative action going on, telling the story and illustrating the story. Transdisciplinary bonanza of creative learning through the development of Chopsy. Right. Well, I got to look at those Chopsy books when you get a chance. I want to look at them.
trying to get those from his hands.
Sometimes they don't want to. They don't want to share. The objects are so meaningful. They're very possessive.
He doesn't want to leave them here, so hopefully he'll get some for the art show. But that's one of the instances of this year that I really noticed kids working together. And other times in past, we've had big projects that kids have worked together on, bringing together a grand idea. I come to think of mine, the Eiffel Tower that we did, which was kind of instigated by me, but then carried on by other kids. The giant war battle, which was individual instances and then combined together to create a larger piece, which was really cool. And then you have some, in the high school, kids work together to build some incredible sculpture.
We just had our art exhibit, our fall art exhibit just took place, and I should post pictures on the blog. A lot of the works in there are collaborations, and one piece that is memorable to me is a marble run. It's about a 5-foot tall marble run made out of cardboard. It was all a collaboration between four boys. They're experimenting with gravity and engineering and flow dynamics, friction of the marble on the surface of the marble runway, and structural engineering. But it was like a 3-month-long process for them, and they included a child who was disabled in the activity. So the 4 of them were working as a team. So there's the exchange of empathy going on in this event, this learning event, and all kinds of learning going on. And the meaning making that takes place is, this is a memory. And that's, the best kind of learning is memorable acts of learning. When you make memories, that's the best kind of learning. I mean, that learning stays with you forever.
Absolutely.
And I've been thinking about eminent cognitive psychologists, and one that stands out to me is the American David Ausubel, who among his research interests, of course, was cognitive science, how the mind makes sense of learning. He said, and how the mind organizes learning is what Ausubel is noted for, meaningful learning especially. But one of his most important statements, I think he said, was the number one thing that an educator should know or should understand is, where their learner is at their knowledge base. What does the learner know? And so that gets back to what are the learner interests, and what is the learner interested in doing? So Ausubel's work, I think, relates directly to what we're doing in TAB classrooms, and that's getting to know your kids individually, so that when we see kids who are interested in working solo or working collaboratively, we are, as a TAB teacher, your kids, and you're ready to help catalyze the moment with advice, material, any kind of support, information, technique, demonstration, right. Thing that goes with emergent curriculum.
And that's one of the things that our teachers struggle with, is getting to know their kids.
Yeah.
Because we see them all. And it wasn't until I started TAB that I really began to see individuals express themselves in their own unique way. When hanging up art shows, before it was organizing by theme. Mm-hmm. Here's landscapes, here's portraits. You'd have many of the same objects. I remember vividly hanging art shows and kids coming up and saying, I haven't seen my artwork. Can you tell me where it is? Mm-hmm. And I could tell them exactly where it was. I said, well, which one did you turn in? And they'd say, well, it's the dinosaur. And it was eaten. I was like, oh, that's over in that hallway. Look on the, I could tell them exactly where that artwork was, because, connecting to the artwork And when kids connect to it, when it means so much more to them,
Yes.
they have more descriptive information that they can talk to you about, and then that's going to trigger exactly what we want kids to do as far as, they're putting more meaning into their artwork.
Yeah.
Now, I was talking with a teacher who came in my classroom yesterday. She's a STEM teacher, and she wants to incorporate more tab, which was cool. She wanted to see how my classroom was organized and had a lot of questions. And I was telling her about when you give a kid an assignment, have to, or whatever it is you want to call it, you have to do this. He's not going to be as engaged or as bought into that as if he were to develop as himself. 95% of the time, if you take a teacher-led artwork, it could be beautiful, executed, colored beautifully. You show it to parents, and they're like, "Oh, that's so wonderful." And then you say, "Choose something for the art show." 95% of the time, that's completely unscientific, but they're going to choose something that they develop themselves.
Right.
And it's not going to look anything like the canned project.
Yeah, the teacher engineered project.
Right.
That looks really cute to the outsider. But those of us who understand child development and these stages of creative development, back to Anne Hathaway's scribble stage. Well, it's actually talked about the scribble stage in sculpture for students. It looks like Lowenfeld's scribble stage in drawing. It's development.
It's practice. It's development. You're learning a skill.
Right.
And when I talk to my kids, I said, this is all practice.
Yep.
So you're 9 years old. Do you make things that mean to you? Yes. Are you, is it going to be perfect? No.
Back to the essence of art making is problem posing. So the child is, I'm thinking about Rollo May, another eminent American psychologist. He talked about boredom. Have children dealing with their boredom. Out of boredom comes the impulse,
right,
to be creative.
Right. It kind of resets. And again, this year, for some reason, I dragged my feet opening up cardboard, and I wanted to see what would happen if the kids got bored. And they did. They were like, "When are you going to open up cardboard?" I said, "Yeah, whenever." Eventually,
they were on you.
They were on me.
Where's cardboard, Mr. Freilich?
And then the impulse, it overtook them. They couldn't wait any longer, and so they started being more creative, creating things out of paper. When you're bored and you have nothing to do, you find something to do. And that was, when we were growing up, that was easier for us to do.
Well, you were a free-range kid.
I was a free-range kid. I hopped on my bike and I would just go. Climb a tree. Climb on somebody's roof.
Your mom, you kids get out of here. Go play. Get out of here.
My mom worked third shift, so she slept during the day.
Well, you're working class.
I was the baby. I could do pretty much anything I wanted to.
I heard you belonged to a bike gang.
Oh, yeah.
It's like something out of like the biker gang from E.T.
Yep. Pretty much.
Except this is in the early 70s.
We'd go build ramps, jump things.
Right. Oh. But yeah, that was
bike gangs, collaboration.
That was, collaborate. Yeah. You learn to create the solution to your problem of boredom is do stuff.
It's finding people with similar interests and sharing experiences.
That's the essence of creativity is finding your pathway, finding your interests, like you said, finding a desire. From desire comes a pathway.
20 years ago, where the teacher was the sage on the stage, held all the knowledge.
Yeah.
Kids were siloed into working individually, develop their own set of knowledge. Now it's completely different. We look at each other. We look to each other. We encourage collaboration.
Yeah.
working together. We encourage shared experience and shared knowledge. Again, as constructing it themselves.
Constructing knowledge.
Right. Children should be able to do their own experimenting and their own research. This is Jean Piaget, yes.
Yeah,
Teachers, of course, can guide them by providing appropriate materials, but the essential thing is that in order for children to understand something, they must construct it themselves and they must reinvent it. Every time we teach a child something, we keep him from inventing it himself. So Piaget's work in America really starting, he was writing about children's language development in the 30s, children's cognitive development through constructivism in the 30s. But in America, in the 30s, that was the heyday of behaviorism, where, children are schools are behavior modification environments. So Piaget's work really begins to take hold in the 1960s in American schools, and constructivism now, well-known educational psychology, a epistemological view of learning through constructivist ways of learning theory. So Piaget's work is super important, and I think it's even though you can use behaviorism to teach human beings. You can use behaviorism on animals. Like your little puppy, your little friendly family pet Joy. She gets rewards when she does good. Does she go out and does she get a reward when she goes potty outside? My dog?
Yeah.
No. She's just lucky to go outside.
But you can use behaviorism to shape behavior, to form behavior in organisms, including human beings. You can use rewards and punishments. But what's better, I believe, is, and this gets back to Piaget, Piaget's work is incredibly important. And, tab classrooms are constructivist learning environments, situated learning environments.
And part of that is collaboration.
Exactly. And, another educational psychologist, very important, a Russian gentleman, Lev Vygotsky, who's not alive anymore. His main emphasis was on, learning as a social construct. It's a social construct in that, if we are, and here you and I are having a social learning event where we're exchanging language and ideas, and anytime you have a conversation, it's a social construct in which language is utilized, and we're using language to pinpoint ideas and thought, and a way of knowing and a way of doing. And that's what, that's back to the importance in the tab classroom of having kids making it available for them to have a conversation while they're working. There's real meaning making when they can have dialogue.
Right. It's the whole experience. You and I experienced organic collaboration when we were building Fred Jr.
Oh, yeah.
That was a great experience.
It was a pain in the butt, but it was a labor of love, and
but that's the thing. When you love what you're doing, you don't, when you're having a good time.
We overlooked the pain of 300-degree hot glue gun burns. Sorry, I burned you that one time.
That's all right. Good thing the kids weren't around.
I know, because we were using the hot glue guns for that, different situations. But yeah, back to collaborative work. When in tab classrooms, kids who self-organize an activity, the teacher can provide a space, provide time and material. It is, it is of benefit to the children, and it's a benefit to the school. The tab classroom becomes that place in the school where learning is such a dynamic event. it's, the tab classroom is the hottest place in the school for many kids. And so, like we said before, children vote with their feet. And, a lot of tab teachers will tell you, they've got a lot of kids who like just to come hang out. And there's a reason for that.
It's fun. The reason it's fun is because of all the reasons we've talked about over the last year and a half. Kids getting to work with their own ideas, work with their hands, collaborate with each other, talk.
Yep. Dialogue. The dialogue, there's so many important outcomes from having dialogue with other students, other children, with the teacher. The teacher becomes a colleague too.
And they're learning. So
and we haven't even touched on the therapeutic aspects of it, which we're not therapists, but there is a huge benefit to authentic conversation, authentic dialogue.
Yeah, we'll hit that in another podcast. The therapeutics of tab.
We have a big, already our summer's planned. We're going to be heading back to Boston in the summer.
Yep.
Plans are being made right now for 2020 Tab Institute.
Yep, I'm working on my class now.
Professor Clark Freilich's going to be there.
Teaching about designing the classroom.
I think the same crew that we had last time is going to be there. And we look forward to another fabulous Tab Institute coming up.
Yep.
At MassArt. Diane will have some information about that. She'll be posting soon, I'm sure.
Sometime in July.
Are you thinking about going to NAEA in Minneapolis in March? What do you think? I just popped this question on you.
I haven't talked to the wife about it yet. Probably. I might be able to go. Is that during our spring break?
Yeah, it's during our spring break.
Well, that's good.
There's going to be a lot of tab and choice-based art teachers up there. I'm pretty certain. It'll be a good time.
We've always had a good time when we've been there.
Yeah. We haven't been there. I've not been there in a while, so.
No, I haven't been. Well, last time I was in Minnesota was 2008, something like that.
Uh-huh.
And then I think the last conference I was at was Chicago when we went. I'm not rolling in the cash like you are.
Yeah, rolling in the cash. You're teaching art. You make enough to stay afloat.
All right. Thank you all for listening to the Blocks, Paper, Scissors podcast. Hope we could give you some new ideas about the tab classroom and allowing kids to work together.
It's always a good time having a conversation.
Speaking of new ideas, if you want to help other people find this show, please take a minute to review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening. Seems like a simple thing to do, but it helps new listeners find the show.
Absolutely.
Wish everyone a happy holiday. Hope everyone gets the rest they need.
Yeah. Hope everybody has a wonderful holiday.
Yes.
And can spend time with their family and friends and loved ones, rejuvenate and refresh.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Adios, amigos.
Hey, I was on Quaaludes. I don't even remember Ausubel. But I remember Boston. And that victory was as sweet as the cream pie for which the town was named.